They called it the recognition ceremony. Rows of folding chairs under cheap white canopy tents. The kind they rent by the hour, never quite level on the grass. Little name cards curled at the edges from the heat, punch sweating in clear plastic cups. A PA system with a faint buzz like a dying fly, and a host who kept adjusting the mic stand like it was too heavy to bear. I wore the blazer Lauren asked me to. Navy blue. Fitted. Pressed, even though it was nearly 90 degrees out. I stood in front of the mirror that morning and adjusted the collar 3 times. Not because it mattered to me, because it mattered to them. Lauren stood beside me. Sleeveless dress. Her hair tied up. Phone in one hand. Thumb twitching across the screen. Catching up on work or friends or some influencer she half-hated. She didn't look at me. Didn't have to. I was there like I always was. We sat in the front row. Reserved seating for guardians and parents. I wondered which one I was. The man who covered tuition? The man who showed up? The man whose name never appears on the fridge drawings or the holiday cards? Haley's name was called. She walked across the stage with all the ease of a girl who knows the world is watching. Shoulders back. Eyes forward. That perfect balance of practiced poise and effortless youth. The cameras flashed. Her friends cheered. Lauren smiled. I stood. Clapped. I even felt proud. Not bitter. Not yet. Haley didn't glance at us. Not even a flicker of acknowledgement. I could have been anyone. Could have been no one. Then the host, some local principal with a voice like a game show announcer, leaned into the mic. Let's give another round of applause to our graduates and to their families for the support behind the scenes. Lauren kept scrolling. That's when Haley stepped back up to the mic. No one had invited her. She took it like it belonged to her. The girl who wouldn't let me see her report cards without Lauren's permission. The girl who changed her last name back to her biological father's without telling me. The girl I still paid for dental, tuition, and gas. She smiled. Bright. Controlled. That kind of smile they teach in summer programs for confident girls. And now, she said with a little laugh, thanks to the one who actually paid for it all. Laughter. Not kind. Not confused. Not polite. Laughter like a slap across the face in a quiet room. Laughter from kids who didn't know me and parents who never would. Laughter from strangers who thought they were in on the joke. My hands stopped clapping mid-motion. My chest went still. Lauren chuckled. Lightly. Didn't look up. I stood. I walked out. Slow. Measured. No words. No anger. Just distance. The kind you don't come back from. They didn't know. They didn't know I had already listed the house on Zillow. That the agent had keys. That last week I had drained the joint account, the one I filled, and transferred my share into an offshore account with my name only. They didn't know that in the trunk of my car, parked far from the school, sat 2 suitcases packed for a different continent. They didn't know because they never asked. Never looked beyond what they could take. I drove away from the school with the windows down. Didn't check the rear view. Didn't wonder what Lauren would say. I knew what she would do, nothing. Maybe text me later. Where'd you go? Maybe not. Maybe she'd be too embarrassed to admit she noticed I left. Moving to Austin had never been for me. It was for her. Her job. Her network. Her sister 2 neighborhoods over. Her hairdresser who she couldn't live without. I said yes because that's what I did. I said yes when it was hard. I said yes when it cost me. I said yes to an unfinished house on a floodplain. To late-night plumbing fixes. To drywall patches after Haley's boyfriend punched a hole in the bedroom wall. To watching my credit score bend under the weight of someone else's dreams. I bought her a car when her old one died. A safe one. Not the one she wanted, but the one she needed. I got called cheap for it. I paid for Haley's orthodontics twice, after she stopped wearing her retainer and the teeth shifted again. I paid the full tuition when her father forgot to send his share. He never called, never showed up, but his name still sat on her birth certificate like a monument. I never asked to replace him. I never tried to. I only wanted a place at the table. Not a title, just a seat. Instead, I got paperwork, receipts, Venmo requests, blank looks at dinner, eye rolls when I asked about curfews. Silence when I gave advice. You start to learn something dangerous when you're a stepfather. You learn how to disappear without anyone noticing, how to be present without presence, how to give without being seen. I once spent 6 hours in the emergency room with Haley after she fainted at cheer practice. Called Lauren 3 times. She didn't answer. Left a meeting, she said later. I held Haley's hand, paid the copay, signed as guardian, sat through the beeps and the cold air and the quiet questions. Took her home. She didn't say thank you. Lauren didn't either. They just assumed it was my job, like it always had been. And still, I told myself, this is family. It's hard. It's layered. It's not about applause. But something broke under that white tent. Something silent. Something permanent. It wasn't the joke. It was the way the room laughed. It wasn't Haley's words. It was the way Lauren clapped without even looking at me. It was the confirmation of every suspicion I'd swallowed over the years. That I was not theirs. Not really. I was a financial instrument wrapped in goodwill. I was reliable, replaceable, a man standing in the corner of someone else's family portrait. And they laughed. Not even out of malice. Just comfort. The kind of comfort that only comes when you know someone else will carry the weight no matter what. I drove to the storage unit after I left. Punched in the code. Opened the steel door. 2 rows of boxes. Labeled. Ordered. My handwriting. My things. Only my things. Not a single item from the house had been touched. They hadn't noticed I'd started packing 3 weeks ago. That the guitar in the living room had vanished. That the books from the shelf were gone. That the winter jackets had been moved. That my drawer in the bathroom was empty. That the man who paid for the roof had already left the house. The ticket was booked under a fake name. The new account had no ties to Lauren. No paper trail. I'd hired a lawyer through a private referral, not for divorce. Just for distance. Clean, surgical exit. You see, when a man knows he doesn't belong, he plans. He doesn't scream. He doesn't beg. He prepares. And I was ready. The school called later that day. Left a voicemail. Mr. Langley, just calling to follow up. We noticed you left the ceremony early. Is everything all right? Not dad. Not parent. Not even step. Just Mr. Langley. Perfect. I didn't call back. I let the day end the way it deserved to. Quiet, unfinished, hollow. Like all the years I had spent trying to earn a place in a house that never had a room for me. That night, I slept at a hotel by the airport. Watched planes cross the sky through the window. Imagined one of them carrying me already. In the morning, I'd be gone. And I would leave no note. Because men like me don't get to leave stories behind. Just silence. I didn't leave angry. That's what people never understand. They think leaving is rage. Slam doors, screaming matches, plates against walls. No, that's drama. That's theater for people who still believe someone might change. I left quiet, because I knew they wouldn't. That night, I sat in the hotel lobby bar. Still in the blazer. Still holding onto the weight of that laugh under the canopy. I ordered 1 drink. Neat. No ice. No garnish. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for a message from Lauren, or Haley, or anyone, because no one was coming. They hadn't followed me out of the ceremony. They hadn't even noticed. I went upstairs and opened my laptop. One by one, I revoked my name from their comfort. The house utilities, water, heat, Wi-Fi, the alarm system, all in my name. All quietly set to terminate. Final bills paid. Dates chosen. Nothing sudden. Just expiration. Let the silence arrive on its own. Let them feel the dark settle in and wonder why. The insurance policies were trickier. Haley's health coverage under my employer? Cancelled. Vehicle coverage? Terminated. I paused before removing her from the family plan. Not out of guilt. Out of calculation. It would trigger an alert in the app. Let her see it. Let her ask her mother why. Bank access restricted. The joint account was locked under a dual signature requirement. I messaged the bank to confirm. No withdrawals without my approval. I moved the emergency savings into a separate account, under a different institution. tied to the offshore branch I'd opened a year ago when the first cracks began to show. Every point of access to me, to the man they thought would always give, was closed. Not in fury, in precision. I had spent years building a safety net they never thanked me for. They called it expected. They called it deserved. They thought it was permanent. They were wrong. At midnight, I turned off the bedside lamp and lay still. And I waited. In the morning, Lauren called. Twice. No voicemail. Then a text. Are you okay? No punctuation. No warmth. I didn't reply. She waited another hour before trying again. Where are you? That one had a period, like it was a question from a colleague, not a wife. Not that she used that word much anymore. Partner, she said to her friends. Haley's stepfather. To the school. I had stopped being her husband sometime around the 3rd year, though no one ever said it aloud. I let her texts stack like junk mail. The silence between us wasn't new, only longer now. I sat in the terminal lounge that afternoon, watching people rush by with their roller bags and neck pillows, all of them believing in returns. I didn't. My ticket was one way. Destination. Nowhere anyone knew me. The name on the boarding pass wasn't mine. It was the version of me that didn't beg for inclusion. When I boarded the flight, I turned my phone off. Complete. Total. Silence. 36 hours later, I powered it back on. 10 missed calls. 7 from Lauren. 2 from a number I didn't recognize, Haley probably. 3 voicemails. All short. All confused. Not one with an apology. I listened to the last one. Michael, please, we need to talk. The bank says I can't access the account. The utilities, something's wrong. Haley's Wi-Fi isn't working. Just call me back. Please. I didn't, because I had already said everything in my absence. A week passed. They still didn't know where I was. That I had crossed an ocean. That I was renting a studio apartment in a city where my name meant nothing. Where I could walk down a street and not be needed. Not be summoned. Not be drained. Lauren finally emailed. We have a problem. Your name's still on the house paperwork. I stared at that line for 10 minutes. Not, I miss you. Not, we're sorry. Not even, what happened. Just, we have a problem. I replied once. Unless you ask me directly, it stays there. And so does the debt. No signature. No warmth. Just a fact. 2 days later, she sent back a PDF. A rental agreement. They'd leased the house. Couldn't keep up the mortgage. Haley's college fund was drained. The cushion was gone. The scaffolding I built had collapsed the second I stepped away. Still no apology. Only logistics. That's the moment I knew. They had never seen me as a man. Just as a mechanism. A tool for stability. They didn't notice when I got quieter. When the dinners stopped. When I stopped asking about their days. They thought detachment was just another phase, like paying for their lives was some kind of reflex I couldn't shut off. But even reflexes fade. Even machines break. I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Exit. Inside were PDFs, scans, passwords, numbers. I prepared this. Not because I wanted to leave, but because I knew someday I'd have to. Some men build escape plans for war. Others build them for love. Mine was built over years of not being heard. Not being seen. I never shouted. I just stopped showing up. Lauren called again that night. I didn't answer. I didn't even let it ring through. I blocked her number. Haley messaged me the next day. You're really not coming to graduation? No punctuation. No warmth. Just a test. She followed it with a photo. Cap gown. That same practiced smile. A caption. We made it. I stared at the image for a long time. Thought about the mic in her hand. The words she chose. The room that laughed. I closed the photo. No reply. Because here's the truth. You can forgive a mistake. But not a performance. And that's what it had been. A stage. A spotlight. A joke. Delivered with perfect timing. She never wanted a father. Just a financier. And Lauren? She wanted a co-parent without the cost of a divorce. A man to fill in the gaps. To stand behind her like a shadow. Present but never central. Useful but never loved. I had been their quiet answer for years. But even silence gets tired. So I gave them what they wanted. I vanished. And in that vanishing, they finally noticed the shape I'd been all along. Not a father. Not a husband. Just a wall. And now that wall was gone. Lisbon was loud. Not in the way Austin was. Not with leaf blowers and construction and neighbor dogs barking through fences. No, Lisbon's noise was old. Cobblestone streets with tired trolleys. Late-night fathu rising from doorways. I rented a one-room flat with peeling shutters and sea air in the walls. It was enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to forget. 3 months passed. Lauren emailed again. This time it was taxes. Can you send me the last 2 years of your W-2s? They're asking for joint filing proof. No greeting. No question about how I was. Just a task. A request from a ghost still pretending she had access to the living. I didn't reply. She followed up 2 days later. They're saying you're still responsible for the property taxes. I responded once. Plain. Clean. I was responsible for the home. You turned it into a lease. That makes it your business now. No thank you. No fight. Just truth. Haley posted graduation photos online. I didn't look for them, but they found me. Tagged in a friend's post, her in the center, arms around classmates, diploma in hand. No mention of me. No acknowledgement. Just filtered light and carefully angled smiles. I stared at the picture. Not out of pain. Out of clarity. She hadn't needed me to raise her. She needed me to remove obstacles. Money. Stability. A man to cover the cracks her real father left behind. She didn't want me to walk her down an aisle of milestones. Just to keep the lights on. I closed the browser. Later that week, a letter arrived, forwarded from the States. It had been opened, resealed, government envelope. It read like a warning. Mortgage account overdue. Final notice. Intent to default. I read it on the balcony, coffee in hand, seagulls crying in the distance. They'd stopped paying. Or maybe they never started. The house. The one I had renovated with my own hands, week by week, late nights with sore knees and stiff fingers, was slipping away. The same house where I had taught Haley how to change a tire. The one where I had built the fire pit she never thanked me for. The same floorboards I had knelt on after Lauren's surgery, washing blood out of the carpet while she slept on pink asterisk lures. And now it would go to auction. I didn't feel regret. I felt freedom. A final tie unraveling. Lauren sent one more message. This is your last chance to take responsibility. The house goes on your credit if you don't help. My reply? No. I took responsibility for all of you. For years. You laughed. Now you pay. I signed nothing. Agreed to nothing. The bank called twice. I ignored them. They weren't my family. Let them chase her instead. Haley messaged again. Can we talk? 3 words. Simple. Hollow. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an open door she still expected me to walk through. I didn't. I sat with it. With the weight of her silence. The silence between every dollar I had given, every ride to practice, every lecture I held back because I didn't want to be controlling. She had made her choice. And choices have weight. Another photo came. Haley in a small apartment. New city. First job. A caption about beginnings. I saw the desk in the corner, the one I bought her freshman year. Still had the scratch where I dropped the screwdriver during assembly. A ghost of my handprint in her new life. But no trace of me. I deleted the image. One night, a call came through. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Michael. Lauren. Her voice cracked. Dry. Small. Hi, she said. I didn't think you'd pick up. I won't again, I said. Pause. I don't know what to do anymore. About what? Everything. I let the silence stretch. You left, she said, almost whispering. And everything fell apart. I didn't reply. It's like nothing works. The bills, the house, Haley's loan requests keep bouncing. I didn't know it was this much. You never asked, I said. I thought you could handle it. I laughed once. Quiet. bitter. I did handle it. That's the problem. I made it too easy to ignore me. Michael. We were a family. No, I said. We were a balance sheet. I didn't mean for it to be like that. Neither did I. But you let it stay that way. She went quiet. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. She misses you. No, I said. She misses the version of me she could spend. Silence. She's not a bad kid. She made a choice. She was a teenager. And I was the man who kept paying while she turned me into a joke. Michael, please. No. I said it firm, calm, like a man saying goodbye to an echo. I want to fix this, she said. Then start by accepting that I'm gone. I hung up, blocked the number again. I didn't hear from her after that. The foreclosure finalized 6 weeks later. I watched it happen from an ocean away, saw the listing removed. The property moved into auction. The address where I once shoveled snow, where I stayed up wiring new fixtures because she liked the lights warmer. Gone. No message from Lauren. No more emails. No more photos. Just absence. I thought it might hurt. Didn't. Felt like breath. Like finally surfacing after years underwater. They thought I'd crawl back. That's the part they never say out loud. The expectation that stepfathers always return. That we forgive. That we swallow it. Because we chose this. Because we knew it wouldn't be easy. But I didn't sign up to be erased. I signed up to be part of something. And when that something turns you into a punchline, a credit card with shoes, the only sane response is silence. Complete. Final. Free. The day the house officially sold, I bought a bottle of wine I couldn't pronounce and opened it barefoot on the tiled floor of my Lisbon apartment. No toast. No music. Just the ocean bleeding into the sky. It didn't feel like victory. It didn't feel like anything. I had imagined closure differently. More dramatic. Some final message from Lauren. A last-minute confession. Haley saying she understood now. None of that came. And that, somehow, was more honest than any apology could have been. People imagine the absence of noise as peace. They're wrong. It starts loud. The silence. Your mind fills it with memories, edits, half-spoken arguments. You replay moments until they rot. But eventually the echoes die. The room stays still. And you realize silence isn't peace. It's proof. Proof that no one is coming. That was my lesson. It didn't come all at once. It crept in like mold on the corners of a photograph. The longer I stayed gone, the more I saw the shape of my role in their lives. It wasn't love. It wasn't connection. It was utility. I had been the emergency fund they didn't have to apply for. The emotional radiator, always humming, always warm, always expected. I thought I was building something permanent. They were renting. And like all tenants, once the place stops serving them, they leave without looking back. I received one last message from Haley. Came 2 months after the house was sold. No greeting. Just this. I don't hate you. I was just being a teenager. I didn't know it would cost this much. I read it twice. It wasn't an apology. It was a line item. I didn't respond. Because by then, I had finally come to terms with what I was mourning. Not them. Not the family. But the version of myself who kept trying. The man who believed that love could be earned like overtime. That if you just kept showing up, eventually someone would see you. He died on the day Haley laughed into that microphone. And I buried him the day I walked away from the airport gate without looking back. Now, I live in a quiet building, 2 blocks from the sea. I work remote. I walk daily. I make dinner for one. I do my laundry on Thursdays. I don't check my phone expecting messages. I don't send birthday cards to people who never asked for them. I don't ask to be remembered. And in that simplicity, I found a strange kind of healing. Not joy. Not redemption. Just breath. Sometimes that's all there is. A neighbor invited me over for lunch once. She's kind. Older. Her son visits on weekends. I watch them laugh over soup, trading stories I wasn't part of. She asked if I had kids. I paused. I helped raise one, I said. She smiled. That's nice. I didn't correct her. didn't explain the difference between help and sacrifice, between presence and love. She didn't need to know. She didn't need the math of a broken family spelled out in bitterness. After lunch, I washed my own plate, went home, sat in the quiet. It's strange how much energy it takes to be invisible, how hard it is to be ignored and still show up. That's what being a stepfather is sometimes. A slow erasure. You're there for the birthdays, the scraped knees, the report cards, the broken windows, the late-night calls from the principal. You're there with your hands open and your voice steady. But your name never lands in their mouth when they're listing who they love. You become part of the infrastructure, essential, unseen, until you remove yourself. And then, only then, do they realize you were holding the floor beneath their feet. Lauren never wrote again. Never sent the divorce papers. Maybe she's still waiting for me to flinch. Maybe she's hoping I'll break the silence. But I won't, because I finally learned the difference between loyalty and servitude. I was never part of her future, just a fix for her past. Haley posted a new photo last week. Her standing on a rooftop, city skyline behind her. She wore the coat I bought her senior year. The one she said wasn't her style but never returned. There was a caption beneath it. Hard lessons. Better days. Maybe she thinks that's enough. A cryptic half-confession, buried in aesthetics. Maybe she hopes I'll see it, decode it, and forgive everything. But I don't need coded apologies. I needed decency. And now I need nothing. There's power in that. I spent too many years waiting for a thank you, for recognition, for a moment that said, we saw you, you mattered. It never came. It never will. And that, strangely, is a relief, because it means I can stop trying. People think the hardest part of walking away is the loss. But it's not. It's the waiting. Waiting to be chased, to be missed, to be understood. When that waiting ends, peace begins. Not joy, not family, but peace. And so now I live in that space. I read. I sleep. I keep the cupboards stocked. I don't explain where I went or why I left. Because the ones who needed an explanation never deserved one. And the ones who might understand wouldn't need it. I look in the mirror sometimes and wonder what would have happened if Haley had thanked me. If Lauren had defended me. If anyone had said, you mattered. You did enough. But they didn't. And maybe they never knew how. That's the saddest part. They believed love was blood. That respect was optional. That a man who pays will always stay. They were wrong. So here's my question, to you, to anyone still listening. Was I wrong? Was I cruel to withdraw the very support they turned into a joke? Was I petty to let the house rot? To let the debt fall? To ignore their sudden panic when the scaffolding vanished? Or was it the only honest thing I ever did? I don't need applause. I don't want forgiveness. I only want the truth. Because I gave everything to a family who laughed when they thought I wouldn't leave. And I left. So now I ask you, would you have stayed?